I guess we'll finish up the gray text video. I think it's probably worth counterpointing to this stuff. But I mean, it really is a difficult argument just because it's so basic. I mean, he's arguing that you can't impose, that procreation isn't an intrinsically impositional act, having kids, that it's so obviously aggressive, it's so obviously a statement, I'm going to roll risk dice, I'm going to decide the welfare by creating the welfare. You just can't deny that it's a creation moment. You're making something, and you can't get more responsible for something than when you actually make it. You put the ingredients together and you bake the bun in the oven. That's making something. That's the definition of creation, and creating is imposing when that thing you're making is not, when there's some question as to whether or not it's of a pure gift nature. And certainly he's not arguing about that nature of it. He's arguing that the nature of it is not fundamentally an act of creation. He's denying its creation. So anyway, we'll
for the rape occurring.
Move on.
If they hadn't had their child, that child wouldn't have been grown up or even raped as a child or an adult or what.
Yeah, well, clearly this is a game now played by the human race, by their human race's discretion. All right, that's just the truth. It's not 10,000 years ago, it's not 50,000 years ago, it's not a million years ago. It's now, and human beings have now acquired control over many mechanisms. And certainly the destiny of the human race is in the human race's hands. We control it now. What we say and what we think and how we act is not incidental anymore. It's not some pure byproduct. We can actually have conversations and thoughts related to the action. So it's a deliberate act now, okay, where in the past it was everybody was a victim. And now the idea of it is now compiled and comprised as an intent. There is now volition in our action. Yes, the rape is more overt. You can almost argue that slavery, 2,000 years ago wasn't really slavery in the sense that it wasn't as overt an act, because there was all kinds of context that made it part of life or part of some kind of religion or part of some other structure. But now we have the knowledge of exactly what the reality is, and that there is no intrinsic or fundamental class that possesses people. Anyway.
It just, what it stinks of, this whole, mentality is, we can't do anything about what's going on in the world, other than...
So now there's another argument through distraction. Let's change the subject. I don't want to talk about nuclear power. I want to talk about buttercups and peanut butter sandwiches. I mean, don't title your video Antinatalism and Efilism then. I mean, you want to talk about, again, knitting band-aids. Because you don't want to, you think there's no chance of a cure. There's no chance of going for, a surgical answer. So you just want to talk about, holistic herbs and some other bibble babble. You're entitled to say that's the only subject, but I don't see any reason why we can't talk about curing the disease, why we can't nip the need bud in its buttery. We don't have to sit there and pretend that need has to exist, because it doesn't have to exist. And so you want to mitigate against the problems created by need. I want to just mitigate the problem of what I perceive to be leaking sewage. And yes, you can sit there and take a dustpan and clean it up forever, or you can make little canals and try to steer it somewhere. You can try to control the problem, or you can turn the valve that just turns off the flow. And I'm going to argue for the easy, simple, rational, efficient solution. And I'm not opposed to canals and all this other stuff, but I don't want resources wasted on that when all we have to, when it would be better spent, it'd be better to just spend the money convincing people to turn the valve off. It's so much more efficient a solution. It's a complete solution. You want some half measure because you want to retain, you have some personal interest. You know, you own a piece of the property or something, and so somehow you want to reclamate the property or whatever the game is, but you have an interest that I don't have. And you're saying that somehow I should have your interest, that I should care about the property. Well, I don't care about the property. There's nothing of value here except turning the sewage off, from my perspective. There's nothing to preserve or attempt to reclamate or attempt to extract. So you can't understand that? Come on.
End the world. You know, it's like we can't have a perfect utopia called heaven, therefore nothing. It's all or nothing, you know?
Well, I don't even think that's the argument, but it's certainly, you can be totally unaccepting of the price you're going to pay, and you can keep trying to say, well, it's this minimalistic argument, but it's not. We know what we know what the human pattern is. You know, if you could give me some realistic diagram or how you're going to get from here to some world that's acceptably dysfunctional, that's only dysfunctional by this little tiny bit, well, then you might have an argument, but you're not even coming close to making that argument. You can't even give me the argument for the human races, you know, retaining anything called civilization very far into the future. You can give me no diagram. You can write me no narrative. Let me hear your narrative of this world change and this mindset change. It's going to be so dramatic that it would be as dramatic as the human race giving up on sports and giving up on competition. And then if you can be that enlightened, why can't you just give up on playing at all? I mean, it's the Buddhist argument. I mean, once you go down the road, it becomes just one tiny step. To just take the one more step and just eradicate the need. Just turn the valve off instead. If you're going to walk all the way up to the valve, you might as well just turn it. And so if you're going to get a human being so civilized that they've given up on all the silly distractions that create all the mess and the slop, if you've got them that eloquent and elegant, it's going to be really easy for people that smart to just turn the valve off, to realize that their psychology is the only thing making the play playable. And it's not the best of their psychology, it's the worst of their psychology. And they're going to realize that. That the only reason why the game's playable is because they have some thing stealing blood from their brain, some body parts that steal blood from the brain, the stomach and penises, and that's the only reason why they play the game at all. So, you know, it's just a tiny step from there. And then, so again, but you've given me no blueprint to your acceptably dysfunctional world for the human race, and then absolutely nothing even close to a solution for the animal kingdom that you would just leave in nature's hands. So a nature that has no conception of compassion or decency or deserve or any of those notions, you would just leave the animals to be subjected to this huge attrition, the misery, the horror, the suffering, the torment. You say that's acceptable. You don't mind them paying that price so you can play checkers three-dimensionally, or whatever it is you're dreaming of in your blissful, comfortable, non-harassed future, where you do whatever the elegant things are that you're going to do that aren't going to involve brutal competition over resources and ownership. So you demonstrate nothing and then argue that I'm supposed to somehow gravitate to your nothing solution. A world where we just keep taking, where we keep applying bandages to ever increasing wounds. And why then should my vision of a cure that is just so accessible? It's just right there in front of us. So easy. And you're saying that I should somehow be distracted by your incomplete, insufficient non-solution. No, that ain't gonna happen.
I asked the Poodle Susan character this. It's like, can you agree that there are solutions other than no existence or the status quo? She couldn't agree.
Well, why would she agree? I guess that, again, you're the one arguing that it has some sort of value, and we're arguing that the whole reason why it's a non-starter is because there is nothing of real value spewing into the pond. It's crap, and you want to say that there's some level of crap that's good enough? Well, why should somebody concede that? And especially in this environment where you provide no blueprints. Again, no explanation. If you give me a description of how you're going to recreate the biosphere from the ground up, and make it so suffering isn't just squandered and wasted in preposterous proportions, well, you don't have any such blueprint. So why would we even have a negotiation about what level of pinprick is acceptable? And again, the fundamental argument's going to always be, the end argument is always going to be, is that the real problem is that you have nothing of value here. There's no reason. You have an investment in this property, in this land. You want to reclamate it. And you're telling people who see no value, see no use, see no purpose in it whatsoever, that they must see your value. Why must I?
This is what we an intellectual argument. We have to fight between no existence and the status quo. That's all. That's the only choices on the table.
Yeah, well, that's not the truth. So that's as far as I'll say. That's just a preposterous mischaracterization of the arguments being made. You're not giving us any vision of your future. No explanation whatsoever how you have any realistic prospect of getting to it. And there's nobody in the anti-natalist community stopping or oppressing you in any way. If you can do something to cure a disease tomorrow, fine, we're all for it. If you can prevent mental health problems, fine, we're all for it. So again, you're not giving me anything describing how you're going to solve a single problem, but you certainly don't have any right to say we're standing in opposition. That's just absolute nonsense. We're doing as much as you're doing, Flabby. So we're going even a step further. You don't even have the initiative to make aggressive arguments for vegetarianism. You don't even have that initiative. To sit there and take the realization that you could mitigate against a good deal of suffering by merely conforming people to a different dietary habit. And you make no aggressive statement even on that subject. So how are you in any way somebody as a role model for, here, I'll give you a better world? There's obviously no indication that you're going to create a better world, because you see no, you don't even believe in doing the very things you need to do to create a new world, which is fight for it. You're not even willing to fight for it. So it's a preposterous joke. Come on.
How is that in any way a reasonable, rational, or sensible debate? It's fucking ridiculous.
No, it's not ridiculous to say it's the perfectly sensible thing to do is eradicate smallpox. You don't leave some around on the shelf somewhere, and you certainly don't leave, 10% of the population infected with it. That would be silly.
It's a reductionism just there to make people think that they are right, that they have some kind of certainty, that alleviates some kind of fear that they have.
Well, again, this argument over certainty, this isn't that complicated. You're the one saying that there's some doubt about the existence of God. I mean, what certainty do we need in what process? So yeah, we have a certainty, and it's not because we're desperate to find a certainty. It's because the facts all point to it, a zillion of them, every single one of them, and every new fact gleaned points to the same truth. And it's a dismal, nasty, harsh truth that you are a deluded psychology that what goes on inside your head in terms of a perception of value has nothing to do with reality. The reality is the sentient beings have value. Flies, the welfare of a fly has value. Your sport team winning the gold cup has no value. Those are delusions in your head. The existence of the human race in the future is a delusion in your head that has any value. It has none.
Makes them feel certain about the world that they are in.
Makes them feel certain. Again, it's a preposterous accusation that we have certainty because we need certainty. It's a nonsensical accusation in the face of evidence. The evidence is overwhelming. You're almost arguing that we somehow want the truth to suck. That's idiotic. I mean, I think, W.C. Fields flipping through the Bible looking for a loophole. We would love to be able to find a loophole. But there isn't one. The truth just plain sucks. And as in brains and intelligence, yeah, we're not willing to rape the truth to get out of our honor obligation to acknowledge what has been proven. The case has been proven. As fair jurors, we have no choice but to convict, even though we don't want to. There's no option.
And to me, it makes them feel certain enough, fearless enough, to not bother doing anything to change that status quo.
Yeah, well, that's just another accusation based on nothing. You have no evidence that the people you are pointing your finger at have done less than you to change the world in constructive ways, to make civilization, while it exists, more civilized. What is your evidence that you have done more, you flabby-assed son of a bitch? I mean, I really don't want to get into these personal arguments, but it's really obnoxious of you to claim that you have constructively and productively done more in your life than any of these individuals. Will you demonstrate that as proven fact, that accusation? Because I will claim you haven't done more than me, and you haven't done more than any one of these other people you are slandering. So until you prove that you have constructively done more, and that you have fought for more causes, and that you have fought for more constructive change in the world, this accusation is obnoxious.
Other than fighting some imaginary war on the internet against existence.
Yes, among other things. Fighting lots of imaginary wars against brutality to cruelty to animals, and imaginary wars against excesses and all kinds of resource allocation, and imaginary wars against cruel and unusual economics. And yes, they fought all these imaginary wars, and you think they don't have a right to fight the one they think is the most sensible. The most sensible war they can fight is the war to get the stupid hand to go to the little off button and turn the sewage off.
It's a great cause for apathy. Can't do anything, can't solve any problems. The only solution we have is to destroy all existence.
The only cure, that's right. Yes, we rationally have chosen to say it's better to invest in the cure than to invest in the symptom mitigation. Okay, so again, it's just based to this argument. You're saying that you know it's better to make band-aids. That's what you're saying. You know it for sure. Okay, don't cure malaria. Don't spend any money on curing the disease. Just buy more nets. And we disagree. We say no, it would be better to do this research thing and cure this bastard of a disease once and for all. That's the better place to allocate the resources. And you're saying with some sort of arrogance that you're right and we're wrong, when quite obviously there's room for disagreement. But I would also argue, though, that we have a context where we know you Band-Aid people it's never worked out for you. Because every time you put a Band-Aid on a wound, they just create another baby with another wound. That this idea of yours that you're just going to feed the poor instead of curing hunger is the real problem. You're mitigating the problem. You're creating the problem, not curing the problem. You're making the problem worse by ineffectively treating the mechanism of its generation. By not understanding the mechanism of its generation, you're just going to make it worse.
I think there's a lot of myopic, reductionist.
Yeah, versus what? Reductionist versus what? Productionist? Fantasy thinking? Fables, fairy tales? Crystal cities on a hill? What? That's all there is. You either understand the mechanism or you lie to yourself. Those are your two choices. The truth or lies.
Childish thinking going on here. And I've been saying,
Yeah, I'd say then yours is the fantasy, childish thinking. You have provided no evidence of any reason for realistic hope that you can moderate the human condition in any productive or reasonable way, and yet you claim people should gravitate to to the parade you're not marching in. The parade to nowhere. Yeah, well, I'm not going to join your parade to nowhere. For nothing. Yeah.
this for years. Okay. Here's how it goes. Your culture, everything in your culture, subliminally teaches you that you're working towards something. You're working.
Yeah, whatever. This is all just so patronizing when you're the one that's totally owned by cultural notions. You're the one that's sitting there saying, I have an investment in this property. There's something about this game that I'm invested in. So you're the one still addicted. You're the one who's doing the traditional status quo sheeple behavior of just saying where I can smell another sheep's ass, and so I'm going to go follow the other sheep's ass. I mean, you're the one owned by your psychology, and you sit here and pontificate, and patronize our intelligence with this theory that we are the ones who haven't figured it out. No, we figured it out. We don't chase ass anymore. Retard.
Working towards heaven. So on. Working towards Christmas, because Santa's going to come.
And then you're the one, like I said, with the fairy tale of the human singularity, that we're all going to go march to some better future. And again, one where you totally leave all other sentient mammalian life out of the equation. They get nothing. You're going to go to cupcake heaven, and you'll give the rest of sentient life absolutely not even. You won't even let them eat the cake.
You do this, and then you'll get this at the end of it. And then when you're growing up as an adult, you're like, hold on, there's no heaven, there's no Santa. If I do this, it doesn't necessarily lead to some reward. It's not fair. Okay? We're told this is the way things are going to work, but they don't. We're told this is the way things are, but they aren't.
Yeah, we're told a bunch of lies, and then we go out and we open a few books, and we say, oh, what's the truth? And we find out the truth is just a horrific game of carnage for absolutely no accomplishment. Yeah, that's where we are.
And instead of saying, well, fuck, I've been lied to, lies suck, let's ditch the lies, let's find a different way to think, let's clear out all this subliminal shite.
Yeah, and you're saying that somehow we haven't done that. That somehow we haven't gotten rid of all the dopey, idiotic notions of traditional human conduct and thought perception. You're saying that no, somehow we're thinking traditionally. Because we are rational enough to say, hey, fairness is important, deserve is important, consent is important. These are all important things. I mean, the whole reason why I figured out rape and slavery is wrong is because I figured out that these are important things. And now you're saying, I shouldn't think those are important things anymore. I should accept a system that doesn't include those things. No, of course I shouldn't. God, this is insanely stupid rhetoric.
We've gained and sucked in through osmosis throughout the years. Let's just clear it out. No. Instead, just be a reactionary. And just go the opposite way. No.
Well, I mean, it just turns out that the opposite way is not a fairy tale. And yes, the opposite way includes no heaven and just hell. That's right. So it's like, whoa, this is a really bad deal. I mean, the God thing was bad enough. Okay, that was silly. But this is even sillier. Shit.
Doesn't matter what you do, you won't get anything. There's nothing. There's no point in doing anything. There's no purpose behind it all. Just reactionary bullshit.
Okay, and again, so how's it reactionary bullshit? Explain how there is a purpose behind it all. Explain how it is efficient and how it's sufficiently efficient. That for the suffering and torment you will cause through perpetuating your existence and creating the biosphere to maintain your existence, that all of that is going to be worth whatever gratifications you're going to eke out of existence. And I don't think you have any hope of making a rational argument that satisfying your deprivation, satisfying your need, is somehow a productive act when your need didn't need to exist in the first place. If I just simply don't create your need, I don't have to satisfy your need. And therefore, I can do away with all of it. I don't have to pay any price.
Right. There is no purpose in the universe, so what was the purpose behind you saying there is no purpose in the universe? Is there no purpose behind you saying there's no purpose in the universe? Oh, it appears there is purpose. There are...
I mean, it's more word game. So he's saying that because the steering wheel has the function of making the car go left and right, that somehow we know the car has somewhere to go. That doesn't mean the car has somewhere to go. Because the wheels are round and functional, that the car has somewhere to go. Because I have feet, that means I have somewhere to walk. No, I don't. The fact that I have functional parts that have been designed to function, okay, doesn't mean that I have the obligation to function. That there's some point in functioning. That there is somewhere to walk. There isn't. There's no place to go. Okay, you're just a dog chasing its tail perpetually, and it's sadistic and silly. And you're doing it at the price of all these other non-consensual victims that you are maliciously, quite factually, disregarding.
Our purposes. If there weren't purposes, then why are you saying what you're saying? Clearly there are purposes. So...
Yeah, again, there are purposes for what... you could say there's purposes to the mechanisms that create an atomic bomb. Does that mean that you want the bomb to go off? Of course not. So, I mean, it's just stupid. What the argument is that there's no functional purpose to the entire gameplay. The fact that the pieces have abilities, the fact that they have standard ability to jump and move and hop and do all this kind of stuff, doesn't have anything to do with the question of whether the game should be played. And that's where you lack the description of the accomplishment in playing the game.
Stop saying there are no purposes. There's no purpose. But there's a purpose behind what you just said. Thus negating your argument.
Yeah, well again, it doesn't negate the argument, just as one happy rat doesn't make up for 1,000,000 unhappy rats. I mean, it just doesn't. To say that there's function in the one that's happy, and you're going to just negate the fact that the rest are victims to that one's satisfaction. You'd know that equation was not adequate and sufficient. And so it's silly to say because there is something that possesses an ambition that we somehow are all entitled and obligated to be slaves to it. We're not obligated to be slaves to your ambition.
You know, there's no universal purpose. Oh, you're upset that there's no universal purpose. You've been lied to. Subliminally, you draw it.
It has nothing to do with being lied to. It has to do with the fact that there's no purpose. It seems a pretty important fact that it wasn't designed by intelligence, and you're expecting intelligent things to play a game designed by retarded forces. That doesn't work in reality. Retarded things do not play games intelligent things are likely to enjoy. Retarded things play games like bash the hammer into the skull and, stick the knife up your ass. That's the games retards play. Intelligent things aren't going to play stupid games. Jesus.
And then that there's some kind of universal goal behind it all, and it's a lie. Okay, so your reaction is to say there are no purposes. There's no purpose.
Well, again, that's just, again, I mean, what can somebody say? I mean, you're just lying, right? You know that that's not what we're saying. That we're not saying there's no function in our biology. Of course, we're saying, yes, the biology functions as a survival machine. But what we're saying is being a survival machine isn't a good thing. Duh.
As lofty and ideal as that one you've been lied to about, so everything else is just a pile of shit.
Well, again, it's just you see what he's doing here, right? I mean, he's just saying that the only reason why we find it insufficient, that the universe is run by crude forces, is because culture lied to us. We don't find the insufficiency of crude forces controlling destiny to be a problem. We don't mind that there's a retard driving the bus because he's retarded. We mind because culture told us he wasn't a retard. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, you can figure out that we are concerned that there's a retard driving the bus because it has the implication of causing all kinds of mayhem and destruction and harm. Duh.
It's a reactionary mindset. There's no point in decrying the brainwashing in your culture and then just going the complete...
Yeah, nobody's doing that. So again, it's another lie. You're just lying. You're proud of yourself that you have to lie to make an argument. No one's decrying the lies of culture. No one here had any expectations about culture. Alright? And you're just pretending that the dismal, harsh, ugly reality of our existence is somehow not a dismal, harsh, ugly reality. And it is.
The opposite direction into some other bullshit brainwashing.
Yeah, bullshit brainwashing. 4 billion years of a molecule evolving. 500 million years why the victims of the experimentation on the gurney have been yelling ouch for 500 million years. They've been saying kill me, kill me, kill me. And you just want to drive the screwdriver in a little further for a little tiny bit longer. And that's all you have is a little tiny bit longer.
That's in denial of reality. Your culture's in denial of reality, and your reaction to that culture's denial of reality is also a denial of reality.
Yeah, sorry, you're proving that with nothing. You're making this slimy accusation that we are psychiatrically reacting to the lies of culture and not rationally reacting to the truth of evolution. And then in the same breath, you are defacing evolution by saying that somehow it's not a harsh and brutal story. That somehow it's some sort of, there's little talking chickens in the story or something.
Yeah. If you're under the age of 25 and you believe in this bullshit efilism or whatever, then fair enough. It's just the same credit I give to Ayn Randists. If you're under 20...
Yeah, so whatever. So now we're Randists because we recognize that the fundamental structure of life is consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction. and that it's all psychological crap, that we're motivated and driven by subjective psychological mechanisms that don't appreciate real value, that are completely manifest to make us into a surviving machine, not an elegant machine. Duh. Yeah, the only part of us that has any any real integrity or value is the very part you're saying we should fill full of sugar water.
5 and you believe in all this bullshit fairy tale stuff. Cool. You'll more than likely grow out. If you're over 25 and you still believe in shite like this.
Yeah, and the shite is not believing in what? God, right? You have some sort of God theory. It's not a 4 billion year long gladiator war. It's some other thing that's taking place. Some other thing besides desperately silly hierarchy. A game of King of the Mountain, where you climb the mountain, you beat off your adversary so you can stick your flag in the top of the hill and then drop dead of cancer or Alzheimer's. And you're saying that's a good game. And these rational 25 or under year olds are saying, wait a minute, that doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. Why would I invest in that?
Despite the 1,000,001 ways in which it can be shown to be bullshit.
Yeah, 1,000,001, you've provided none. You've claimed that impositions aren't real. you claim that finding insufficiency in the squander and waste of sentient welfare is somehow delusionary. Where's your million arguments? I can't find the one, let alone anything close to the million. You haven't provided one rational counter argument, not one.
And you've got issues. Okay.
Well,
So,
you've obviously got issues.
There's a
obviously.
semi-angry, semi-condescending
Obviously, yes.
Video about this subject, which I don't feel comfortable making. But ultimately, fuck you.
Yeah, whatever. That's pretty much all it was, and it was a desperate pile of crap. Motivated by what? Again, motivated by your personal interest in somehow reclaiming a piece of the turd property. You want to rise your turd Atlantis out of the turd pond, because you need it, not because I should need it. Just because you need it. You can't make a rational argument why I should need to see Atlantis rise out of, the turd pond. Why should I need to see that? It's just going to be another turd city. I've seen Turd City. No need to raise another one. So anyway, till next time. And such. I don't think there's anything else, is there? No. That's enough. And